Well, you heard my theory on what's going on in Egypt, Tunisia, possibly spreading beyond there. Last week, I was telling you that we better be careful what we wish for as far as a regime change in Egypt, because what we get may be worse than what we've got. I'm no big fan of Hosni Mubarak. I don't know anybody who is. But the Muslim Brotherhood and other forces over there that are for a worldwide caliphate that want to bring Sharia law to us all, to a neighborhood near you, are some of the folks who are vying for power in this vacuum. I want to talk to some people who know about this. Brigitte Gabriel, we've had on before. She's the author of several books, including Because They Hate and They Must Be Stopped, and she happens to be on the line with us. Brigitte, how are you, and welcome back.
Glad to be back with you, my friend.
It's good to have you. So was my assessment pretty close? I mean, we could be getting worse than what we've got.
We are going to get worse than what we've got. What's happening in the Middle East right now is very troubling. What's happening across the Islamic world is very troubling, because we're seeing the same demonstration right now, the uprising happening in Egypt, Jordan, Libya, Morocco, Algeria, Yemen, and Lebanon. And I just got word that demonstrations in Syria are planned for this weekend after the Friday prayers starting on Friday afternoon. So we're seeing an uprising. The problem is that the uprising is happening, yes, by people who want better, a regime change. They want a better economy, etc. But what's manipulating everything behind the scenes are the radicals who want to bring back an Islamic caliphate and institute Sharia law.
So, are we being bamboozled? Are we falling for this? I see where Hosni Mubarak is now saying that he's going to step down by September. Is that to give himself enough time to choose his successor, or is it to give him enough time to loot the palace and get out of town?
Well, I think we are working very closely with Mubarak. The United States is in constant communication with him, with the head of his army, and this will be an opportunity for him to work with Western governments, in particular the United States, to form an interim government that is friendly to the West. Remember, Mubarak has been a staunch ally of the United States. He enforced the peace treaty with Israel after Anwar Sadat was assassinated. He opened the Israeli embassy in Cairo. He stood with the United States in our first Gulf War against Saddam Hussein when we went and liberated Kuwait. He's been working with the United States on its war against terror by supplying intelligence, etc. He has been a staunch ally. So what we're doing with him is making sure that he appoints and identifies people who can work with the United States to make sure that the Muslim Brotherhood will be rendered ineffective. This will give us the opportunity to identify people from those who are demonstrating, so the people on the street will feel that their voices are being heard, that Mubarak is stepping down. But this will allow the creme de la creme to rise up from those who are on the street, that we can work with, who are for a secular government, who are for at least a less radical vision of Egypt than what the Muslim Brotherhood want. And, it's basically trying to think as fast as we can and trying to salvage the situation in Egypt.
Well, it seems to me, though, Brigitte, that we have, and I've seen the Pew Research Center opinion polls of people in Egypt, more than 80% of them believe that if you leave the Muslim religion, you should be killed. We have at least half of them who are friendly or have favorable thoughts of Al Qaeda and Hamas. And a lot of these people, at least a majority of these people, think that they should be ruled with some sort of Sharia law. If we leave the Egyptian people to their own devices, what do you think we're going to get, and how do we keep that from happening?
If we leave the Egyptian people to their own devices, we're going to end up with a Muslim Brotherhood caliphate, hands down. I started saying in my book, They Must Be Stopped. The title is the book, the latest book. I dedicated chapter to the Muslim Brotherhood, and actually the chapter is for the Muslim Brotherhood Project for North America and how it affects us. But I said that if elections were held in Egypt back in 2008, 2 years ago, the Muslim Brotherhood will win the elections hands down. We are seeing right now a rise of radicalism radicalism all over the Islamic world. Look what happened when supposedly democratic elections were held in Gaza. Hamas won a sweeping victory. Look what happened in Lebanon with the election. Hezbollah literally voted itself into the government democratically and right now took over the government. It is very alarming. The people of Egypt, the World Opinion Poll did a review.org, and back in 2006, they went and interviewed people on the streets in Egypt, face to face, and they asked people if they want a Sharia law or the rising up of a caliphate worldwide. 70% wanted an Islamic caliphate to rule the world and wanted Sharia law to rule Egypt. 70%. These are amazing numbers. So what you are watching, the people who are demonstrating on the streets are basically what we term as radicals, who would much rather women be stoned, thieves have their hands cut off. They want an Islamic theocracy a la Iran.
But we've got Mohammed al-Baradei, who this guy seems to me to be more of a European socialist. He uses phrases like speak truth to power and that kind of stuff. And it seems to me he's more of a pacifist. If, in fact, he fills the vacuum, won't the Muslim Brotherhood cast him aside in short order and take over from him?
Oh, he's a huge friend of the Muslim Brotherhood and a great sympathizer with them. And I'm so glad you brought up al-Baradei, because here's a man who does not have deep roots in politics, does not have deep roots in grassroots activism. Here's a diplomat who lived most of his life in Vienna or in New York working for the United Nations and basically covering up for Iran and their nuclear development plans since 2003. And therefore, he's a close friend of the mullahcracy in Iran, to the point that back in this past September of 2010, the Iranian gave him over $7 million to run for the presidency in Egypt to bring about political change in Egypt. The money was funneled to him through a businessman, an Arab businessman in Bucharest, in the capital of Romania, going by the initial of A and E. That's all we know about him. But we know that Iran basically is propping al-Baradei as a reward to him for working with the Iranians and covering up for them. We know that al-Baradei is not a friend of the United States. He despises the United States. The Bush administration couldn't stand him and actually wanted him to resign from his post as the head of the IAEA because he was covering up for Iran. So al-Baradei is the last person we want to head up Egypt. We want to make sure we work with Mubarak to identify somebody else from the Egyptian street, from Egypt, to be able to work with us other than al-Baradei.
Let me ask you this, Brigitte. We're talking with Brigitte Gabriel. Do you think the Muslim Brotherhood is a terrorist organization?
The Muslim Brotherhood is a terrorist organization. It is actually the mothership of all terrorist organizations worldwide. The Muslim Brotherhood was founded in 1928 and is the oldest terrorist organization in the world, with 70 offshoot Islamic organizations, including Al-Qaeda and Hamas. The second man of Al-Qaeda, Ayman al-Zawahiri, was one of the leaders of the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt, actually imprisoned by the Egyptian government because he's considered a radical, and sent to exile. And this is when he joined Al-Qaeda. Osama bin Laden used to be a member of the Muslim Brotherhood. Muhammad Atta, the ringleader of the 9/11 attacks, is a member of the Muslim Brotherhood as well as Al-Qaeda. And this is exactly why President Mubarak immediately cut off internet access in Egypt, because he knew that Ayman al-Zawahiri and Al-Qaeda will be immediately giving orders to the streets in Egypt, rallying their people and their cells all over Egypt, telling them what to do. We know already that a member of the Muslim Brotherhood in the United States, in the first day of the demonstrations in Egypt, was sending orders and information from America to the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt, telling them how to organize and where to meet. That's why the internet access was shut off. Most Americans, Phil, are not familiar with the Muslim Brotherhood, are not familiar with international relations or policies unless there's a major disaster. And even then, they really do not understand what to think. That's why they came out against Mubarak for shutting down Facebook and the internet. They're saying, that's why people hate him. People need to understand that Mubarak is dealing with a radical terrorist regime just like Khomeini was. What we are witnessing right now is Iran all over again, except the name of the Shah is replaced by the name of Hosni Mubarak, and instead of Khomeini and the radicals of Iran, we are now dealing with the Muslim Brotherhood.
Yeah. Well, what's the chance that they're going to get what they want? What is the chance that we're not going to have a peaceful transfer of power from Hosni Mubarak to somebody else who's friendly to the West, and instead that we may have the Muslim Brotherhood running Egypt?
That will all depend how Obama handles the situation. Sadly, Obama has failed miserably in the Foreign Relations Department. He does not understand his history. He does not understand the gravity of the threat. America lost three main Western allies, Islamic allies, in the last 3 weeks alone. Tunisia is gone, Lebanon is gone, and now Egypt. Obama needs to immediately work with whoever we identify as a secular person from the streets representing the people of Egypt. We need to stand with them. We need to support them. We need to work with them. We need to let them know that America is working with them to render the Muslim Brotherhood ineffective. It's all going to hinge on how much the Obama administration and his foreign policy cabinet is going to be able to understand and estimate and devise a strategy to work with the Egyptians and be very careful on how they handle it. Otherwise, we're going to end up with another Lebanon. The way it's head up by Hezbollah, we already lost Lebanon. They cannot afford to do that in Egypt. Egypt is the second largest Islamic nation in the world with 80 million Muslims.
So how fast is all this going to transpire? We've seen the demonstrations over the last week or so. It seems to be happening rather rapidly. How fast before we're going to see a new regime in power, do you think?
I think it's already starting behind the scenes. I mean, Mubarak is already saying, okay, I'm stepping down a little bit from my duties. He already appointed the vice president a few days ago. Things are developing so fast that, they're trying to scramble as much as they can. And I am sure our CIA is involved as well in Egypt right now in working with the Mubarak regime and identifying people that we can work with now that they can start plugging into, and the government showing the people who are on the streets right now that your voices have been heard. We are working with you. We are supporting you. We want to make sure that the people's voice is being heard. And the same thing is happening in Jordan. Look, in Jordan, they have had demonstrations now for 2 weeks, but they have not been covered as much because of the size of the demonstrations in Egypt. They have been taking all over the news. But just today, there were some people trying to uprise against the King Abdullah in Jordan. So, things are happening fast and furious.
But the thing about it is, to me, it seems that we're looking at this and we see all of these protests going on. It can't be just coincidence, and I don't believe it can be just because they're seeing on TV. Well, they're rioting and protesting in Tunisia, so we should do the same thing. Somebody is bound to be at the epicenter of all this. That is agitating this and getting these people in the streets. Is it the Muslim Brotherhood? Is it Al Qaeda? Who is it?
It is both the Muslim Brotherhood and Iran working together and working as well with Al Qaeda. Let's remember that all these people, whether they are Shiite or Sunni, they come together for their ultimate goal. And a lot of people say, well, they are enemies. They've been fighting for 1,000 years. But here's the example of how they work together. Iran in 2006 was supporting Hamas in Gaza and was supporting Hezbollah in Lebanon and coordinating activities between both of them to open war against Israel or drag Israel into war. Hamas kidnapped an Israeli soldier in Gaza. Hezbollah kidnapped an Israeli soldier in Lebanon, which dragged Israel into an all-out war for 34 days with Lebanon. And it made the whole war play on the world stage. Here we saw Hamas in Gaza, which is a Sunni group, working with the Shiites in Lebanon, Hezbollah, a Shiite group, and they came together against their enemy. And this is the same thing that's happening right now. Iran is pulling the string. Iran has the money. Iran has the vested interest to topple people like Mubarak, and here is why. Mubarak just gave the Israelis the green light to be able to use their submarines in the Straits of Hormuz in case they need to go attack the nuclear plant in Iran. Also, Saudi Arabia gave the Israelis as well, the United States, the privilege to use their airspace in case they need to attack Iran. So this is why people like the Iranians have a vested interest in making sure that Egypt right now the regime in Egypt will be changed to at least disrupt any possibility of the Israelis working with the Egyptian government and being able to use their submarine through the Straits of Hormuz to do a preemptive attack against the nuclear reactors in Iran.
Interesting. Well, we appreciate your perspective, Brigitte, because you're from that part of the world. You study it, you live it every day, and we appreciate your expertise. Brigitte Gabriel, she's got a book out, They Must Be Stopped, as well as her other book, Because They Hate. She writes extensively about this. Is there a place where they can go where you write regularly, columns that they can read, Brigitte?
Absolutely. People can go to our website, actforamerica.org. Actforamerica.org is now the largest national security organization, grassroots movement in the United States. We have 160,000 members, 500 chapters nationwide, with a full-time lobbyist on Capitol Hill. We have a petition now on the website, the Keep America Safe and Secure petition, that I urge people to go there, sign it, and sign up to get our emails and action alerts. We are creating the NRA of National Security. We need to wake up Americans to understand the threat of radical Islam to the United States. And one important note here, the Muslim Brotherhood has a project for North America and has already set up 29 Islamic Front organizations in the United States. One of them is ISNA, the Islamic Society of North America, who are now advisors to President Obama about our Middle East policy. We need to be educated about the issues. I urge our listeners to go to actforamerica.org and get involved.
Brigitte, thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too. Quick time out. We're going to be back. 1-800-618-PHIL. Stay with us.